Right, let's get jump to my slide here. So a little bit of introduction. I can see some familiar faces. Some of you guys already know me, but for those who don't, my name is Tarek. I've been working in digital marketing for over 11 years now. I've worked on both agency and client side. I've worked for companies operating in Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. I've worked with small companies that had monthly marketing budgets of $500 all the way to big brands with $500,000 budgets. My experience and expertise is in paid media. So anywhere where you spend online on ads and conversion rate optimization. So how you can optimize your website to get more conversions and grow your conversion rate. And finally, marketing automation. So this has to do with automating your email marketing, nurturing leads, and managing your database. And for the past couple of years, I've been running my own little digital marketing consultancy and training company called bluepencil.ae. Putting aside the digital marketing, what I also like to do for fun and also for some money and just generally for fame is I play guitar in a band. So I've been playing guitar for 15 years now, and I play in one of the best bands here in the UAE called CNR Mafia. You can definitely check us out online. We have 2 albums already released, and the 3rd album we just released it last week. The first song of the 3rd album. So yeah, check us out for sure. You can find us on Spotify and all these platforms. Please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. So here's my link for my LinkedIn profile. Just look for Tarek Rida. Let me show you one of my concerts with the band. Any fans of the band Bon Jovi here? Anyone knows the band Bon Jovi from the 80s?
Of course.
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. So Bon Jovi, they came to Abu Dhabi. They played in 2015, and my band got to open for them. And this was the picture taken from that concert. It was 25,000 people that attended the show, and it was by far the most thrilling night of my entire life. You can see the look on my face. I had that look on my face for probably a whole week after the show. All right, let's jump into it, guys. So today we're going to talk about B2B marketing and sales working together. First of all, who I'm assuming everyone here works in B2B, yeah? Everyone here is in B2B companies?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we're going to cover 3 main topics today. We're going to talk about why should marketing and sales work together. So we'll have a better understanding of what exactly do we get when we have marketing and sales work together. We're going to talk about the shift from cold calling to inbound. Who does cold calling here? It's okay. You can you can say if you do cold calling. I used to do some cold calling back in the day, but I don't anymore. Anyone here does cold calling still?
Yes, I'm still doing.
It's a safe space, guys. Okay, cool. So we're gonna see how we can shift away from cold calling into inbound marketing, and then we're gonna talk about using technology to bring marketing and sales together. So what is the technology that we have today that allows us to have marketing and sales work together? Okay. All right, guys, let's jump straight into it. Cool. So the first thing we want to look at is why don't marketing and sales align? Okay, so this is a report and a study that was done by Demand Gen Report, and it's a company that surveyed thousands of B2B companies, asking them what are the reasons for your marketing and sales teams not being aligned. Okay, and it turns out really the number 1 reason is just lack of communication. It's just simply lack of communication. Marketing and sales, they just don't talk to each other. I guess that's probably really the main reason why any relationship doesn't work out, is just lack of communication. But also another reason, a second reason, is that the processes are broken or flawed. And again, that's because marketing and sales, they have in a lot of the cases when they're not aligned, they're working in silos And so marketing would have its own process, sales would have its own process. And so trying to align them when from the get-go they had different processes is usually difficult, and you end up having broken processes when they're not aligned. Another third reason is that they look at different metrics. And again, I've seen this with a lot of companies that I've worked with, is that sales would have its own metrics, marketing would have their own metrics. And really what happens is that eventually you're not serving the overall objective of the company, right? If marketing and sales are not aligned, how can you really best serve the overall objective of the company or the business from a growth perspective? So these are the three main reasons, but then you also have other reasons like lack of accurate data on target accounts, some reporting challenges, lack of common prospect and customer data, and lack of accountability on both sides. And this last one here is, I would say, I've seen it firsthand personally, where marketing would blame sales and sales would blame marketing, and really you just don't end up having accountability on both sides. All right, so in the same report, in the survey, they also asked the companies, so what is exactly that marketing want from sales, and what is it that sales want from marketing? Okay. So let's start with sales, what they want from marketing. It turns out the number one requirement is just getting better quality leads. Yeah, and that's obviously it's normal for sales to expect good quality leads, and that's really it makes sense that it's the number one thing that they expect from marketing. They also expect more leads, just generally a bigger and better pool of leads from marketing. They also expect to have competitive information and intelligence on those leads. So ideally, the salesperson, when they go and speak to a prospect, they want good enough information and background on that prospect that they're about to speak to, and intelligence on the decision makers and what are their pain points and what are the things that drives them to buy, and also brand awareness. So sales, they also want when they go and speak to a prospect, they want that prospect to have a good level of awareness of the company, right? Of the products and the services and the company. So these are really the main things that sales want from marketing. And I've seen this firsthand also. One of the companies that I worked for is a B2B company, and there was always this struggle there's always this argument of sales kind of blaming marketing for bad leads, and then marketing blaming sales for not following up on leads, right? And really the reason for all of this is that they just didn't work together from day one, right? So this is what sales want from marketing. Now, what is it that marketing want from sales? Well, they want better lead follow-up. So marketing work hard on generating leads, and what they expect from sales is they expect sales to have prompt and proper follow-up with those leads. They also want consistent use of systems. Again, I can testify to that. I witnessed this firsthand working for B2B companies, that one of the struggles is just getting salespeople to use the technology that marketing has brought into the company, right? So example like a CRM. Also, marketing expect feedback on campaigns from sales, and they expect sales to use the tools and messaging that's provided by marketing. Okay. All right. So now that we understand why marketing and sales don't align, and we understand what is it that sales want from marketing and what is that marketing want from sales, let's move on to kind of painting the picture of what is it like when we actually do have marketing and sales aligned and working together. Okay, so the first outcome of that is that you have accurate buyer personas. And really, what is buyer personas is just the exercise of very clearly defining who is your ideal customer. Okay. Now, in a lot of the cases, this exercise is done by marketing separately. So marketing would sit together and they would come up with personas, and usually those personas are, based on research and might be based on some data. But when you have sales joining that exercise, what you end up with is absolutely a more accurate buyer persona, simply because sales, they speak to customers all the time. They have a relatively good understanding of what are the drivers, what are the motivations, what are the challenges and pain points that these prospects face. And so having marketing and sales together, defining the buyer persona, is really the ultimate solution here to coming up with really the best buyer persona and the most accurate and most relevant buyer persona. Okay. All right, so you're really making sure that from the very starting point you're aligned. Now, what this results in is that also when marketing start working on developing content and producing content for just general content marketing, this content marketing becomes more effective also, because if you have a very good understanding of what are the biggest problems that your prospects face and what are the biggest drivers and motivations, you can create content that is very relevant to these pain points and very relevant to these problems, right? So really what you end up with is a more effective content marketing machine, right? So you have accurate buyer personas, you have more effective content marketing, which means that you're able to better qualify leads, right? Because we understand exactly who is our ideal customer profile and we're giving them good content, we are able to better qualify those leads, right? And lead qualification is a very important step in the sales process in general. And if marketing is able to help qualify leads, and as we will see in the coming slides, this really helps removing the friction from sales, right? So what we end up with is shorter sales cycles. So instead of a salesperson spending, 3-4 months trying to close a deal, the average sales cycle might be shortened to, let's say, 2 months or a month and a half, if those leads are being qualified before sales actually speak to them. And normally when you have shorter sales cycles and more qualified leads, you end up having higher sales win rates, which means that we get also more revenue, right? So the time of those salespeople is being utilized in a more effective way. And we also have better customer retention rates. So if this customer has been having a good experience throughout, from the very first touch point all the way to closing a deal, and then also actually delivering the service or the product, those customers are much more likely to be retained, right? Are much more likely to buy again and stay with us. We also have better tracking of ROI. And when you have when the metrics of both sales and marketing are aligned, and you're both working towards the same goal, it's much easier and also much better for you to track the ROI, right? You have common metrics. You're able to define exactly what works and what doesn't, and just generally have better tracking of ROI. And finally, is that you stay ahead of the competition. I mean, I can tell you right now that there's a lot of B2B companies that don't follow this process, right? There's a lot of B2B companies, especially in this region, that are still working, having marketing and sales working in silos. And so really now it's a question of who's going to jump on this, who's going to be ahead of the competition, and getting the marketing and sales to work together can really give you an advantage over a lot of your competitors in the market. Okay. All right. So we understand why marketing and sales is important. Now, how can we go about this? Like, what is the first starting point here? I think a good starting point is just shifting our mindset from the idea of cold calling to inbound marketing, right? So, and this has been going on for years and years. The idea of cold calling is that you basically just you immediately try selling to a prospect that has never heard of you before. They don't know anything about your company or your product and service, and immediately from the very first touch point, you're trying to sell to them. Yeah. Now, this is not natural in any way. Okay. If you meet someone for the very first time, outside of the context of business and companies. If you just literally just meet someone for the very first time, would you just travel with that person together, or would you get into a relationship with that person immediately from the very first touch point? It's obviously it doesn't make any sense, right? Yet when we bring this into the context of businesses, we expect this to work. We expect a prospect that has never heard anything about it, doesn't know anything about us, to immediately buy from us and trust us to the point that they can buy our product service. Doesn't make sense at all, right? So this idea of funnel, and I know that this is such a it's probably coming to a point where it's becoming a cliche, almost, the funnel, but it's still true and very relevant, right? I think really just depending on how you approach this and how you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. Before someone makes the decision to buy any product or service, they have to go through stages in their mind, right? And these stages are typically defined as, in the simplest form, awareness, consideration, and then having the intent and deciding to buy the product. Okay. Now, if you mirror that with the typical standard sales stages or cycle, you have a prospect that turns into a lead, that becomes qualified, that gets pitched, that gets a proposal sent, and negotiation, and then finally closing, right? So really, this sales process is very much aligned with the marketing funnel that we're all used to. So getting a salesperson to speak to a prospect that is at the very top of the funnel and trying to sell to them obviously doesn't make sense. Now, I'd like to hear from you guys. What do you think are the reasons why cold calling doesn't really work? Like, what is wrong with cold calling?
It's pretty random, so people doesn't want to be bugged, and nobody likes being called every day. We spend a lot of time on phone, so I mean, someone starts calling and selling random thing, you don't want that.
Yeah, so irrelevant, right? So the call is irrelevant. Yeah, what else do you guys think is bad with cold calling?
You never know if you're speaking to the right person. You could be calling assuming that's the right person, and it's a waste of time, resources, everything, money, everything.
Absolutely.
And the person you're talking to isn't primed to receive your message.
Yep.
People try to ignore you.
Yeah.
Even if the solution is like beneficial to them.
Yep. 100%. All of these are very relevant points when it comes to cold calling. So customers definitely do find it irritating. I mean, try to remember the last time when someone called you trying to sell you a product and service, and you liked it, or you immediately decided to buy. It really is not common at all. And like you guys said, it's time consuming and expensive. I've worked for a company, a B2B company that was very, very sales driven, very sales heavy on sales, really, and especially cold calling. And we used to make thousands of calls to prospects that for the very first time that have never heard of us. And not only is it time consuming, but it also to some extent can damage the company reputation. Because if you receive 6-7 cold calls from the same company over and over again, eventually you end up hating the brand to some extent, right? And like you guys mentioned, also reaching the decision makers is difficult. So the process of actually finding the decision maker and speaking to the decision maker can really take time, and it's not easy at all. And finally, difficult to educate customers over the phone. So trying to move a prospect through all of these stages, awareness, consideration, and decision, over the phone is really, you have to be the Wolf of Wall Street. but that doesn't even work in a lot of the cases nowadays, right? So consumers are really demanding, and they expect a different approach, right? So
Tariq, just wanted to add a perspective here.
Yeah.
We are a talent agency, so we have B2B clients on one end, but for us, the way I look at it from an HR perspective, the people we are trying to recruit, they are a target audience as well. So I actually joined this call more from an HR perspective, because I think that attracting good talent is essentially also sales and marketing, but from the HR perspective. In that case, actually cold calling works for us, because the more people that just see the logo and the brand, even though if the job opening is irrelevant for them, they may pass it on to their friends and whatnot, right? So just wanted to add that perspective, that I feel that depending on the eagerness of the buyer, in my case, talent, actually cold calling has been positive for us. It doesn't close leads, but it gets the word out, and generally in a positive way.
Gotcha. Were you able to have a good kind of tracking in place of the impact of cold calling, direct impact of cold calling on, let's say, brand awareness?
So because one of the things I'm looking forward to is maybe the tool section of this presentation. But we look at number of followers across the social media, because we advertise for certain personas, and then we see, so we track this week over week, and yeah, we see our engagements are 5 times compared to our second biggest competitor from a hiring perspective. The engagement on our post is about 54%, and the next best is around 9 to 10%. So yeah, we do see a positive result of that.
Yeah, so I think in my view, cold calling and across any sector, I think the approach of inbound marketing has proven many times across different sectors that inbound marketing, one has removes so much more of the friction in sales and utilizes the time of those salespeople in a much, much better way, simply because the salesperson, when they speak to a prospect, if this prospect has been exposed to inbound marketing content, that this prospect is not cold anymore. They are much, much warmer, which means that if a salesperson spends, let's say, an hour calling warm leads compared to cold leads, the result of that is much, much higher. Naturally, when you speak to a prospect that already has been exposed to content. So I would say across sectors in general, inbound marketing has proven to be much, much more effective than cold calling. And today we're going to see also how we can approach that and the different technology that helps us achieve that. Right. So the thinking here is that we want to move away from cold calling into inbound marketing. Right. And the idea of inbound marketing here is that the salesperson only comes into the picture at a much later stage, meaning that salespeople are not anymore speaking to prospects. They are now speaking to qualified leads. Right. So marketing does then, in this scenario, does a lot of the heavy lifting at the beginning. It takes care of generating the awareness, building the interest, and even qualifying the leads. Right. And the nice thing about inbound marketing today is that because we have advanced and very smart technology and tools that can help us automate really big parts of this whole process on both marketing and sales, right? So a lot of the inbound marketing activities can be, to a large extent, maybe 80% of it automated, if not entirely automated, including the qualification process. And so naturally what happens in this case is that when this salesperson speaks to a prospect, first of all, the salesperson already has a lot of information and background on this prospect. They know exactly what is the level of interaction and engagement that this prospect has had with us as a company and with all of our marketing. They also clearly understand what are their interests, because part of the qualification through inbound marketing is understanding exactly what is the product or service that this prospect is interested in and what are their pain points and problems. And so when the salesperson speaks to a qualified lead in this case, they're much warmer. Again, going back to the benefits that we mentioned earlier, the sales cycles are much shorter. There's less friction in the sales process and higher win rates, right? So this is the world that we live in now, where marketing and sales are working together towards the same goal. Okay. All right. So what does marketing do exactly then? Like what goes into inbound marketing? So when we approach inbound marketing in a B2B scenario like this, we also want our content and our marketing activities to also mirror the different stages of this funnel that we spoke about, right? So we understand now that we have top of funnel users that have only maybe just heard of us once, and we have middle of funnel users who have already showed some interest and have had some engagement with our website and our company, and then we have bottom funnel users who are much closer to the decision of actually buying. And so the content that we produce for these users at different stages has to also mirror that. Okay, meaning that for top of funnel users, the type of content that we should be sharing with them are probably is probably more educational. So things like blogs and articles and infographics and videos and FAQs, and really just content that is just providing value to these users. And really the purpose of this content is just simply to plant the seed in their brains, right? So just really to initiate that awareness and be like, hey, we're here and we provide value, okay? And then as these users start engaging more and more with us and with our content, we should then start changing a little bit our content to start maybe talking about things that we have done, how we have helped other businesses similar to them, right? So looking at things like potentially ebooks or maybe case studies of other clients that we've helped, maybe white papers, maybe market research, probably video tutorials. So really just kind of slightly changing, tweaking the content now to try and introduce our value as a company and how we've helped other businesses. And then as these users have more and more interaction and engagement with us, now they are at a stage where we can start kind of pushing for maybe free evaluation of our product, maybe a free trial of our product, probably coupon codes or promotions, right? So at this stage, the user is ready to start receiving more of kind of salesy, or maybe we're just getting them to get their hands dirty with our product or service, okay? And when you think about content, there's obviously so many different types of content, but just looking at content as a lead magnet, as basically a magnet for leads, as something that can get users to enter this funnel, is something that has worked for a lot of companies across the past years. And this goes back to a principle, a psychology principle called reciprocity. And this psychology principle, basically what it says is that we as humans, we as people, we try as much as possible to not feel indebted, right? We have a tendency to return a favor. And so one of the ways that companies can tap into that is by giving valuable content away for free to users. And what this does basically is that it plants the seed in their minds that we have done you a favor. Again, if we keep doing this over time, users eventually, on a subconscious level, they feel like they need to return that favor in a way, and they feel indebted in a way, right? And this is really the whole premise of content marketing. It really is giving away value for free, pays back, basically pays back and pays off later on. Okay, so using content as a lead magnet where you can acquire the data of users in exchange for valuable content is a strategy that has worked for a lot of companies for the past years, and it's something that you should absolutely consider, right? And if you're looking at the different types of content, so you can produce lists. So for example, this is a piece of content from a software company called WordStream, where it says this: our 13 best content marketing tips ever. Okay, so these types of content lists typically tend to get good traction with users and prospects. And lists also tend to work well on Google organic search. So if you're trying to get your website to rank for certain queries on Google, producing this type of content, list of content, can get you this zero position on Google, which we call zero position on Google. And this is a featured snippet from Google where your website can appear in that format, which obviously, as you can see, is a great format for your website to appear on Google. You can also produce how-to guides, and how-to guides in a lot of the cases will probably be serving the mid-funnel users. So let's say how to use this, or how to use that, or how to use a product or service, or how to solve whatever issue that you're having. Also tends to work well. Interviews is another type of content that you can absolutely tap into. So this is an interview, B2B marketing spotlight, try Heath on optimizing ABM and social sales, right? So interviews is a great way to provide value and also showcase your thought leadership and authority in the business, right? So when you interview important figures in your sector, you're really building this community around you, and you're showcasing that you're affiliated with figures of authority in your sector. Okay. All right. Now let's move on to the technology part of it, right? So the tools that we can use to get marketing and sales working together. And really, a starting point is having a proper CRM in place, right? So CRM, today's technology of CRM is really amazing, and the things that you can do with a proper CRM in place can really bring tremendous value to your company. Who uses a CRM here with their company? Anyone?
We're in the market to look for one.
Sorry, come again?
We're in the market. We're looking for a CRM because we were using Zoho CRM, but I think we are past beyond Zoho right now. So we are looking for something which is more robust.
Okay. Right. So
using HubSpot. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. And you guys are using the paid version of HubSpot or the free version?
Just the free version for now, but we'll upgrade. I mean, as soon, because it's new to us. I mean, we are still learning. Our team is still learning.
Right. Got you. Okay. Yeah. So a CRM technology is absolute. It's invaluable to any company, and really the CRM is where everything is really the machine that runs your marketing and sales, right? So this is where you can find your companies and contacts, prospects. This is where you can find your deals. This is where you can manage tasks of both marketing and sales. And this is where really the important piece here is the automation flows. And this is where you can automate really the entire process of both marketing and sales. So we're going to be looking at some of the features and functionalities that you can have with a CRM technology. Let me ask you guys again another question. What do you need, in your opinion? What do you think you need to make the sales process scalable and more effective? What is the one thing that is key to making your sales process scalable and more effective?
I feel that I've identified in my team that we need a more effective way to reach the right customer, one thing. And then second, we need to have a proper recording of the customer, each and every transaction, interactions, conversations, proposals, quotations. There are a lot of steps involved. So complete track of it, complete user history is very important. And if you're not keeping track of it, you might lose on the prospective sales, or you might lose an opportunity to retain that customer or upsell or cross-sell. So there are a lot of opportunities which can be created if you have the proper data of that particular customer. And this is the second thing. The first thing is how to reach to the right customer.
Got you. Yeah, so these are definitely valuable points in the process, absolutely. So I think if there's one, like really the key thing to making the sales process scalable, and that's a very important bit here, scalable and more effective, is really automation. Okay, so if you're able to automate the processes. So let's say you have an amazing process in place. Being able to automate it is really the key to scalability and effectiveness of that process. Okay, and luckily we live in a time where today's tools and technologies provide us with really amazing features of automation, which saves time, but also just integrates data and makes the whole process really very, very effective. So let's have a look at some of these types of automations and what we can do with automation. Now, this is a basic example of what an automation can basically kind of include, or what are the things that can be covered in an automation, or one type of automations. So this is a process of having automated communication with a prospect that has just joined, just arrived at your website. And through this automation, you're basically communicating with that prospect and moving them down the funnel, right? So there's someone that has arrived at your website for the very first time. They joined your list, and through this process, or through this automation, you're basically consistently communicating with this prospect, and then it's all entirely automated, right? So let's have a look at this automation and what are the steps that this process covers, right? So the very first action here is that the user joins a list, right? And when we say joins a list, is that someone came to your site. Let's say you had a you had a lead magnet. So you had a piece of content where you acquired the data of the user in exchange for that piece of content. And this user shares with you the data, right? So what this automation does is that when the user joins that list, the first thing it does is that it adds a tag. Now, tagging is the first functionality that we see here in this automation. And tagging is a way for you to segment your database. And segmentation in any customer database is absolutely key and super important in your marketing communication in general, right? So when you have a database and this database is properly segmented, and this segmentation could be based on anything. It could be based on, demographics, where they're located, what are their interests, how they entered the funnel, whatever the segmentation that you decide. Basically, segmentation is the key to having relevant communication, right? So if I know that part of my database are based in Abu Dhabi and are interested in this product, I am able to communicate with them in a very relevant way. I'm able to communicate with them based on exactly their needs, right? So tagging is one form of segmenting your database. And so the first thing here is that the system automatically tags the user saying ebook, right? So meaning that this user has downloaded our ebook, okay? And then it sends out an email to the user to download the ebook. And then it waits for 2 days, and then it checks if the user has clicked on the link inside that email. If yes, they're going to receive an email with an introduction to, let's say, someone in the company. If they have not clicked on that link, it's going to resend that email to download the ebook. Okay, and then you can have a whole other branch here, but let's just follow the yes path. So they receive an email with introduction, and then the system waits for another 2 days, and then the system checks, has this user opened this email or not? If they have, it's going to add a tag which says sales qualified. Okay, so because this user has opened the email and they're interested in knowing about the person that's in the company, so we're going to say that this person is qualified. If they haven't, it's going to resend that introduction email. And then over here is going to send another email to the CTA, right? So you can have this kind of automation really running for maybe a month or 2 months or 3 months or however long that you decide this automation to run. And you can have many different branches of it, right? So yes and no, you get this. Yes and no, you get this or that, right? So there are many different paths that you can create within an automation. Farzal, you have a question? Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, 2 questions. One is very specific to the email. Because we mostly, now this is on the business side of our business. when we send out an email to two recipients from the same company, and let's say we are using Zoho, we don't receive individual tagging. We receive, an alert saying this email has been opened, but we don't know which one of the two receiving members have. So is there any tool which does that? And the second question is, adding maybe a website layer where people are not downloading anything or not signing up for ebooks, just being able to know that this person has visited the site these many times for this much duration, something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So most CRM systems are able to do all of these points that you mentioned. So that most CRM systems are able to measure the number of times that the user has visited the website. So on a contact record, you're able to see that this person has, first of all, opened this many emails, clicked on these emails, visited the website, let's say, however number of times, and which pages they've also visited. Because typically a lot of the cases, really in any case, a CRM system has to be integrated with the website to be able to track the activity of users on the site. Because
yeah, that's an assumption that the links have been embedded on the website.
Yeah, and one of the other things that can also trigger an email is, which could be part of this path, because this is obviously a very simple, basic example of a path, but in other scenarios, you can have an email being triggered to a user after they have been to the pricing page, for example, and you can receive an email. So really the actions that you can take within an automation like this is sending emails, assigning tasks, tagging, notifying salesperson, let's say, checking if the person has taken this action or not. So there are so many different actions that can be, and even checking if the user has actually downloaded the document or not. So HubSpot, for example, they are able to, through HubSpot, HubSpot is obviously one of the best CRM systems out there. You can check if the user has downloaded the document or not, let's say the ebook in this case. And if they do download the ebook, you can then trigger another automation. Or if they haven't, you can also trigger another automation. So the level of tracking and things that you can do through these automations is really very, very granular and very detailed. Yeah. All right. So now you can see that with these kinds of automations, you can really get super complex in your automations. And so one of the things that I advise you guys to think about is before you dive into these automations, because when you use one of these CRM tools and you start discovering the features and functionalities that you can do with it, it can be fascinating to the point that you end up having so many automations in place, and you lose track of what is exactly the path that a user takes, right? So when you approach automations, try to first map out the path of a user or the journey of a user, maybe on a big kind of paper, or can you draw it on a big A2 piece of paper, and then apply that in the system or in the tools, right? And as long as you understand what is the path and what is the goal that you're trying to achieve eventually, this should guide your creation of these automations. Okay. All right. So what else can we do in terms of automations? Also, today's technology allows us to personalize and automate the messaging on the website itself. All right, so not only in our CRM, but also on the website, meaning that you can trigger, whether it's chatbots or pop-ups on the website, or even personalizing the content of a page to every user that is coming to your site. All right, so this is a chatbot tool from a company called Drift. They have an amazing chat tool. It's a little pricey, but really, they've designed this chat tool to be really offering a very high level of personalization for B2B companies specifically, and they have even an account-based marketing approach to their tool. So you can see here, this chatbot shows up to a user, and it's able to capture the name of their company. And so this part here, White Whale, is a personalized piece of the message. And also here it says we work with a lot of B2B SaaS companies like White Whale. So again, B2B SaaS and white whale are both personalized pieces of messages. So if someone else visits the website from another company and another sector, this chatbot message would be personalized to them. And so you can do this with not only chatbots, but you can also do it to a large extent with, let's say, pop-ups, or maybe a sticky bar on the website that stays on the site, or really just any call to actions that you have on the website. You're also able to personalize and automate the communication and messaging there, right? And the nice thing about all of these technologies and tools is that they all seamlessly integrate together. I mean, to a large extent, most popular CRM tools can integrate with most popular chatbot tools, and even some CRM tools have chatbots features within them, like HubSpot, for example. HubSpot is really a full-fledged system that has not only CRM, but has email, and it has ads, and it has website piece of it. It can get expensive, but again, even if you don't use HubSpot, you can still use individual tools. But the nice thing about them is that they all integrate together. Okay. You can also automate your sales pipeline. Farzal, you have a question?
No, I think you answered it. The other question was, if we send an email to 2 recipients, HubSpot doesn't seem to tell us who has seen it and who hasn't. If there is any other email tracking tool that can tell us on an individual basis.
Yeah, so ActiveCampaign, for example, is another tool that can give you a list of the actual contacts that have whether opened or clicked through an email. Okay. And I'm pretty sure other CRM systems or email automation tools can do that to a large extent. But yeah, I know for a fact ActiveCampaign can do that. All right, so you can also automate your sales pipeline. And we know every salesperson has a pipeline and different stages in the pipeline. The nice thing about today's technology and tools is that we can automate a lot of that, the movement of leads through these steps or these stages. So for example, we can say that once, let's say we send out a proposal to a prospect, and once that prospect opens the proposal, or let's say signs, or maybe even just open, then the system can automatically move them through the next stage. And the moment they sign a contract, the system can automatically move them to the following stage, right? So we can also automate a big part of the sales pipeline. So really this saves time and just makes us more efficient. Another piece of automation that CRM systems provide also is managing your leads. Now, let me ask you guys, when let's say you receive 1,000 leads or 100 leads, or whichever the number is, do you guys think that all of these leads are equally valuable to your business? And if you can tell me why, if they are or if they aren't.
I mean, based on a little bit of reading, about, I forgot the name, but there were a couple of car salesmen in the US who have won, like, car salesman of the year for like 20 years. One of their mental things was treat each lead equally well, whether there's a farmer coming in with, a baggy pair of jeans, or someone in a suit and tie. Don't differentiate between leads. So, but that's like at the end of the sales process, and it's very specific to a walk-in customer into a car showroom.
Got you. Yeah. Any other thoughts, guys, on how you look at leads? First-time leads that are coming to your website. Do you think they are equally valuable to your business? Let's say you have 1,000 leads sitting in your database. And when I say valuable, I mean their readiness to buy from you.
I'd argue no, because there is the time element into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have to say the level of interaction in this group is bananas. There's literally 2 people interacting in a group, but no worries, it's all good. I know it's a mini class, and you're leaving back, and it's your lunch break. No worries, you are spared.
Yeah.
This.
my thinking process, Tariq, here would be that, if I could somehow figure out the domain of the user. So we provide technology services. We are very strong in, let's say, telehealth and logistics. and I know that I can give out like a dozen references in those two areas. So my first priority would be to deal with these easier to win clients, because I probably served clients like that before. That would be my personal sort of business criteria for this.
Got you. Yeah, yeah, makes sense. And really, the reality is that there's no way that all the leads that are in your system are equally valuable to your business right now, right? You naturally will have some leads that are more ready to buy from you, and other leads that require more time and require more convincing, probably. And so one of the good things that we have in today's technology is that these tools and technologies are able to tell us which leads are more ready to buy from us, okay? And we do this by something called lead scoring. All right, so lead scoring is the principle of when you're looking at these leads, this batch of leads, I want to be able to pinpoint the leads that have a high score, the leads that are much warmer than others, that have had a high level of interaction and engagement with my brand, and are more likely to buy from you, from me, or more ready to buy from me. Okay, so what is lead scoring? Well, lead scoring is something that a CRM system would also do for you, and in the background automatically. So for example, and this is something that you can set up this structure of scoring, and you can define these points. So for example, you can say that if a user visits my pricing page, I'm going to give them a +20 in their score. If they download my ebook, I'm going to give them a +5. If they open my email, every time they open an email, they'll get +3 points. If they watch a webinar, they're going to get 10 plus points. If they conduct a search on my website, they're going to get 2 points. And you can really define this scoring in any action or any. So for example, someone replying to my email can get a score. Someone clicking through a link inside my email will get another score. Right? So you can really define the scoring structure in whichever interactions that you have with your users. But what you end up with is that if this system is running in the background, assigning these scores to users as they interact with your business and with your brand, what you end up with is a view of exactly which users have the highest scores. And so the highest score means that this person has had the highest level of interaction and engagement with your brand. And naturally, when someone has a high level of interaction with your brand, they are obviously more likely to listen to a salesperson, they're more likely to buy from you, and they're more open to buying from you, right? So then I'm able to see that this guy over here has a score of 90, this guy has a score of 75, and so the actions that you can take then based on that is, for example, you can have something in your system that says once a lead reaches score above 50 or above 80 or above 100, whatever it is, automatically schedule a call with them, okay? And so even the action that you take based on this scoring system is also automated, okay? So you can see that really the automation is going from the very first touch point all the way to scheduling a sales call with a user. Okay? So it's a very, very powerful way of filtering through the leads that are warm and really making sure that sales only speak to leads that are ready to be spoken to. Okay? So also another thing that you end up with in a CRM is really just one central 360 view of your lead or your prospect. Okay, so you're able to see in just one page all the activities and the interactions that this user has had with you. You can see all the data points, any firmographic data, any information about their business, whatever tags that they have, whatever automations that they are part of. So really just having that one central view of the lead. And when you have that, when a salesperson is about to speak to a prospect, they can go and check the record, the contact record of that user, and really just go through the entire history of that user and really understand what are the things that this user has done with us. And so when the salesperson speaks to that prospect, it's almost like a seamless experience to that prospect, right? This prospect understands that this company, the salesperson is fully aware of all the interactions that this user has had with our company. They understand what are their pain points, their problems, their challenges, what are they interested in, which product they're interested in, etc. Right? So really, it's a valuable resource for the salesperson. Okay. All right. So some of these tools, obviously, some of them are designed for big companies, and some of them are more tailored for small to medium businesses. So if you're a large enterprise, really these are some of the popular CRMs. Obviously, Salesforce is an amazing CRM system that is designed for big enterprise companies. If you're a small to medium business, there's again a lot of CRM systems there out there. HubSpot obviously is a leader. ActiveCampaign is a great tool that does a lot of these functionalities, but there are so many CRM systems out there. The MarTech industry has exploded over the past few years. So finding a CRM system, because you probably have so many options and so many choices, might be a little overwhelming. But I think if you first just define what is it that you're looking for, what is that you're trying to achieve with that tool, and then looking at the price points and probably the customer support, these would be kind of the things that you would have to look into when you're deciding on who to work with. All right, that's pretty much it for today, guys. Do you have any questions on anything we spoke about today?
Hi, Tarek. Can you go back to the presentation before automation, whereby you are saying about Google script, which is being highlighted from your website? Can you explain more on that?
Yeah. So when you produce content and pieces of articles on your website, when you're basically writing this content and you're formatting the page, one of the main reasons that you produce content is obviously, the things that we spoke about, but also another thing is that content really works as fuel for your search engine optimization, right? So content marketing plays a huge piece of really just fueling your SEO. And so one of the things that you should aim for when you're producing content, in addition to the benefits that we spoke about, is trying to use this content to rank for queries that are related to your industry. So usually top of funnel queries, people that are looking for information, so informational type of queries. Using content to show up on Google for these queries is important. Now, this is the first step.
Did you mean it's like SEO optimization and making most contents or hashtags in your content?
It's absolutely, as part of SEO, absolutely. So producing content for the purpose of ranking also for queries on Google. And the idea is that this format of articles, so the list format of articles where you have bullet points, or you have a bunch of, let's say, 13 points or whatever it is, this kind of format, if you're formatting it properly, Google can pick this up. If Google thinks that your piece of article is valuable and high quality and high authority, it can actually show that piece of article in this format that we're looking at here on Google. And this is what we call the zero position. And the reason why I call it zero position is because there's no one above you. You really get that. You take that big chunk of the very top of the page over here, and Google actually shows a snippet of your article to the user. So obviously, your website showing up on Google in that format is amazing, because you can see why it's valuable. Obviously, you're taking a really big chunk of the search results page, and obviously the click-through rates on that is much higher than a regular listing. So that was this point, basically, on producing list type of articles.
Thank you. You answered very well. Thank you.
Any other questions, guys, on today?
All right. Anyone?
I have a question, Tariq. I want to know. I mean, see, having these CRMs and then putting in place in the office and then using all the data and putting your current or existing or previous records, and then connecting it to different portals. So I as a company, we are lacking here. I mean, we are not able to use it effectively. So what is your tip how to implement that CRM and use it up to the optimum level? I mean, because people like me, there are a lot of people who don't have experience in this and they have limited knowledge, and it's difficult to implement it actually. So you have that, but you can't use it completely.
Yeah, for sure. I think there are 2 points to that. The first point is the implementation and the setup of this whole system. You absolutely need someone that has done this before and knows how to set this up properly. I think if you have a proper setup and implementation from the start, it will really just help you. So like if you try to wing it on your own, you might spend a lot of time, but you can eventually get to it, but you're just gonna spend a lot of time trying to figure things out, trying to connect the dots. So really going to an expert that knows how to set this up, I think would be the way to go. The other thing, the second piece is adoption. And I think, if we've looked at the first slides on one of the biggest problems that marketing has with sales, or what they expect from sales, is using the systems that are in place. So the adoption of the tools, I think, would be the second step. And this will just have to take effort internally to make sure that every single person is using the CRM systems, and you can enforce this over. You can spend, let's say, 2-3 months, where within those 2-3 months, by the end of it, you should have an adoption rate of, I don't know, 90%, and then eventually get to 100%. But yeah, so proper implementation, and then adoption after that. I think these would be the way to go. But you really need to have someone that knows how to set this up from the start. Yeah.
Just the last question from the chat. Can we use automation for WhatsApp messaging?
Can we use what, sorry?
Automation for WhatsApp messaging.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of the CRM systems can integrate with WhatsApp messaging. You might not have it internally as part of the features within a CRM system, but you will absolutely be able to integrate an external tool that can do WhatsApp for you and integrate with CRM. There are ways where you can definitely integrate WhatsApp as your messaging. Yeah.
Thank you, Tarek. So we run out of our time today, unfortunately, and I would just want to close this session by showing you some beneficial maybe information for you, because we still have a lot of options for courses within our academy that might be very, very useful for you. Especially, I would like to highlight the one B2B marketing and lead generation that we're going to start on the 23rd of August. So please have a look on our website, and yes, look forward to see you next time for our next mini classes. Okay, I wish you a good day. Thank you very much. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you, AstroLabs. Thank you.
Guys. Have a good one.